We all set, Barb?
All set. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Hello, everyone. I would like to call to order our third meeting of this renaming ad hoc committee. Today, August 31st, 2021. I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope we gave you guys ample time to go over some of the documents sent out. Hopefully you guys have had some time to kind of search around in board docs and look over some of the things that we will be discussing tonight or this evening. Before we begin, dive into discussion, should I say, I would like to have the minutes for last meeting approved. Hopefully everyone has looked through these. Everyone had a chance to look through the minutes?
Move approval.
Okay, so I move that the Citizens Ad Hoc Committee for the Renaming Memorial High School approve the minutes from the meeting dated August 18th, 2021.
Just need a second. Mark motioned. I just need a second.
I second.
I'm sorry, can you say your name? Because I couldn't tell who that was.
It was Ron.
Thank you, Ron. Okay.
So now that we have completed that order of business,
They have to vote on it, Julianne, so just ask for all in favor and then all opposed.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Looks unanimous. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Now that we have that order of business taken care of, moving into the discussion, Barb has been so kind to put together this document that breaks down each remaining proposals, public comments made. It's quite lengthy, and I don't intend to go through it one by one today. I think that would just be, I think that's the best use of our time, but it can definitely be used as reference, and it's in board docs for people to spend time with as they so choose. Has anyone not been able to look at this? Just raise your hand if you have not had a chance to look over it. Cool. So it seems like everyone is pretty familiar with it, or at least have spent some time with it, which is great. So we can kind of just move into our discussion piece. Cynthia and Mark they were super kind and volunteering their time in creating this document for processing the remaining recommendations. And I think that it looks really good and thorough for us to continue to go through. Mark or Cynthia, since you guys created, do you guys at this time want to kind of speak and talk through this, or have anything extra to add? Cynthia, you're on mute if you're saying something.
I should unmute myself. And so, yeah, that's me, Cynthia, not Finley. She keeps doing this. I'm so sorry.
I'll rename you.
Thanks, Barb. So Mark and I spent some time together and then individually reviewing all of the setup docs. Barb was kind enough to provide to us. And what we discerned was that the process is actually fairly clear. We did, and that's laid out by, the Board of Education for MMSD. That said, we did identify a couple gray areas. And so we brought forth some solutions that Julian felt were appropriate in order to move past that. Part of that will include Mark walking us through a rank and vote process when we get to those steps. And in one of the documents attached to the agenda, you'll see not only the process laid out by the board, the gray area clarified by Mark and I kind of going through this together, and then referencing referencing back to the committee's charge and the policy so that we don't lose sight of our guardrails, what is and is not appropriate for us to discuss, is very clearly outlined there. And then on the second page, there is a full list of essentially the process laid out by the board, the school board. And so I think the first step, Mark, we had just said, we wanted to just truly determine if each of the names, remaining names, actually meets the policy listed in MMSD Policies and Procedures 6700. So our first step was to go line by line through the JMM remaining renaming proposals doc, the Excel spreadsheet with all the comments. And then also referencing how the policy reads. I think that maybe the board chairs, it might be appropriate for Julian to read the policy just out loud so that it's clear and on the record as to what we would consider falling within the parameters of the criteria for the names before we proceed possibly.
I agree with that. So I'll read the policy out loud at this time. Policy accept as provided in Board Policy 3661 and 6701. An MMSD building will be named after the name has been researched, reviewed, subjected to public comment, and approved by the Board of Education. MMSD schools are named for prominent national or local figures who are deceased, locally significant geographical sites, places or local significance, or ideas or concepts which represent a broadly respected community value.
So our first pass would be, Mr. Chair, to go line by line through that document that Barb was kind enough to condense and determine if each of the remaining submissions falls within that criteria of being a prominent or local figure, national or local figure, deceased, locally significant geographical sites, places of local significance, or ideas or concepts which represent a broadly respected community value. So we suspected we might be able to reduce the list based on those criteria to start.
And also, I before, and just correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that in our last discussion, looking at this list, hold on, just before okay. All right, I'm there. In reference to the remaining names, I remember us speaking about what was the determination on, though there are different proposals, condensing the names in terms of, let's say, Bruce Diamond versus Bruce Diamond Memorial, and shrinking it further in this meeting.
We did talk about that. However, if you go and read the different responses, some of them are very different and they're ranked very differently.
Right. And okay.
So they are separate proposals, and we feel based on how the policy was set, we do have the obligation to go through each one and consider or omit.
And I was on the same page as that one. Okay, let's just go through. I think that I was jumping the gun because that all made sense to me. I just thought that we were taking the one. Okay, so
if we want to, Julian, I think if we start with the document called JMM remaining renaming proposals.
Yeah, the Excel sheet.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking maybe if we just start at the top and determine if each of these proposed names do fit those criteria, and then I think we can move on to the next step, and I'll let, I would ask Mark to lead step 2.
Okay, so the first proposed number 1 is Bruce Diamond Memorial High School.
See, I-
They have him.
Could I get clarification on when I'm sorry for the interruption, Julian.
Oh, you're
Wonder-
fine.
So we have the spreadsheet and we have this aggregated ranking of proposals to rename Memorial High. Is the spreadsheet contains all of the proposals 1 through, well, it says 1 through 78, but there are numbers missing.
Right. Yes, correct.
So we're only going to look at the aggregated, or we're going to look at all the items? And then what I thought that we had decided that if it had a 3 and above, they would be included.
Yep,
Yes.
and
So but
that's
this
all we're looking at.
just the
15
3 and
remaining
above.
ones.
So
Yep.
each number of the proposal, each proposal number is on this Excel sheet. That's why it jumps around based on the number proposal was initially submitted. And this list was the list of the 3 and aboves.
So the aggregated, it doesn't have all the 3 O's on it though. Like I don't see Michael Oakleaf's for Otis Redding. I mean, I don't know what the purpose of the aggregated attachment was.
I actually think that attachment might be the averages that Mark Clear.
Okay,
So I think
the
maybe we should
comments.
probably ignore that document. No
Okay.
offense, Mark, because I think that served its purpose to us. And then what's remaining on the spreadsheet should be anything ranked 3 and above, which we did agree on last committee meeting.
Yes, okay,
To
thank you,
reduce the
Cynthia.
And so I'll go through
I
this.
thought they were
list.
the same.
And so I'll go through this
I think so.
this list, and we can kind of just go down, and
Yeah.
people can just say if they think that it fits the criteria per the policy. Proposal number 1 by Lisa Davis was Bruce Diamond Memorial High School under a prominent national or local figure who is deceased. And Bruce is considered a prominent due to his contributions to the school district and memorial community.
Maybe Julian, if I could suggest that as we go through each one, maybe you just ask if there are objections to considering it as meeting the criteria. And then if there are, we can talk about it, but otherwise
Just move
we
through.
can assume that
Yeah.
silence means, yep, it meets the criteria and we can just keep moving.
All right, I won't even ask then. If you got an objection, just say it. Proposal 3, Bruce Diamond under prominent national or local figure who is deceased. Proposal 4, Bruce Diamond High School, a prominent national or local figure who is deceased. Proposal 5, Bruce Diamond Memorial High School, a prominent national or local figure who is deceased. Proposal 7, Bruce Diamond Memorial High School, a prominent local figure who was deceased. Proposal 9, Bruce Diamond Memorial High School, a prominent national local figure who was deceased. Proposal 12, Ruth Bader Ginsburg Memorial High School, a prominent national local figure who was deceased. Proposal 15, Bruce Diamond Memorial High School, a prominent national local figure who was deceased. Proposal 16, Bruce Diamond Memorial High School, a prominent national or local figure who was deceased. Proposal 18, Bruce Diamond Memorial High School, a prominent national or local figure who was deceased. Proposal 20, Bayard Rustin, a prominent national or local figure who was deceased.
I'd request discussion on this one.
Okay, well, I'll read the rest of the proposal and we can discuss.
Yep.
It says, if the proposed name is a prominent local or national figure who is deceased, describe why this person is considered prominent. Prominent is defined as widely and popularly known. Bayard Rustin was a civil rights activist, along Martin Luther King, but was forced to stay in the shadows due to him being a gay African American. He encapsulates civic duty, progress, and resistance in a peaceful and kind way. If the proposed name is a prominent local or national figure who is deceased, what is the significance of the person specifically to the Madison Metropolitan School District that it should choose to name a school for this particular person over other similar prominence? The explanation was, Bayard is forgotten to many, and recognizing him in MMSD would be a step towards equality for not just the African American community, but also the LGBTQ community. One. So with that being said, I'm opening up discussion to the committee members to discuss the proposal 20 on Bayard Rustin.
I love the spirit of some of the reasoning. However, in the submission, it doesn't outline any significance to Madison or the Madison Public Schools.
Does anyone have any thoughts opposing this or in favor of Bayard Rustin remaining on our list? Proposal number 20.
I think it could remain on the list if we determined that this was a prominent national figure. And it's sort of my own bias of whether I consider this name prominent. It's not someone I had heard of before myself, but that's only one data point.
Okay, with that being said, is there motion you would like to move, Cynthia?
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is where things will start to feel uncomfortable because I never want to squash anyone's enthusiasm or their spirit for submitting things. However, I think we have a really robust and strong list of other possible candidates. I do like the spirit of this. I don't think that Bayard Rustin is, I would move to strike Bayard Rustin from the list because I don't believe that the submission meets the criteria.
I second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Can we have discussion first?
Yeah.
So yes, moving and seconding, put stuff on the table. That's when you have the discussion and then you vote after that. Thank you.
Thank you.
David is joining.
David is joining.
You may just want to recap real quick for David what we have on the table right at the moment.
Yep, plan
Cynthia,
to.
would you mind restating your motion, please?
No, not at all. I moved to remove Bayard Rustin from the list of prospects because I do not believe, despite the extraordinary spirit behind the idea and the submission, and I think there's tremendous positive influence there, I don't believe that the submission meets the criteria for a prominent national figure, and that could be subjective. But I think most importantly, there was not a strong argument for significance to the Madison Public Schools or Memorial High School.
So now we're opening it up for discussion.
Could I ask a clarifying question? Cynthia and Mark, in your write-up, which I appreciate you both doing, you referenced two board policies within the policy that's listed. If you see that, right, it says, except for 3661 and 6701. I'm just wondering, as we're going through this process, do you know what the contents of those two policies are? Otherwise, or maybe Barb has access to it, or I could look for it. I'm just wondering.
I do, Amber. I can open it up and you can look at it briefly if you want to.
Yeah, or if you could even put a link in the chat so I could just open it. That would just, I want to make sure we're fulfilling.
I'm sorry, we can't do chat on the side when we do
okay.
a board meeting, so we can
That's
only.
fine.
So I am happy to open it up. Can you tell me the number again, please?
Yeah, there are two referenced in this policy. One is 3661 and the other is 6701.
So I'm just going to open it up real briefly, and I will try to summarize very quickly what I think these are. So the sponsorship policy, I'm hoping that you're seeing that right now. Okay.
Yes.
Sponsorships are a way for people to sponsor particular things in the district, but not necessarily have something named after them. They may get credit for whatever they've done if it's a particular thing, but it is not as formal as naming a building or even something inside of a building. It's just a way for people to approach the district if they're particularly interested in a major sponsorship of something that we do. You are very welcome to read through this if you like.
No, that's a perfect explanation. Thank you.
Okay. And then the other one was, I'm sorry.
6701.
So that is the other policy that has to do with naming a facility or area within a school or school
Got it.
campus. Okay?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Thank you.
Yep, thank you so much.
I have a question or comment.
Go ahead.
Okay. So in the process to reach recommendation, determine if each remaining name meets the criteria of MSC policy procedure 6700. The policy reads, so that means that this is something that we are taking into account when we review names. An MSD building will be named after the name, has been research reviewed. We're following this, right?
Right.
Yes.
So it says, subject to comment or approval by the school board, MSD schools are named for prominent national or local figures who are deceased, locally significant geographical sites. So I actually like the idea of somebody who's of significance to Madison, but this says national and local figures, but that the only thing that describes the locally significant are sites or places of local significance. It doesn't say people of local significance. So I'm just wondering, does anyone else notice that? Is that something?
I read that to mean that it can be one of three things: prominent national or local figures who are deceased, or locally significant geographic sites, or places of local significance.
That is
Or
correct.
that's four things, or
Or
ideas or concepts.
Yes.
So those are four different categories of potential names. So the national or local people is a whole category.
So I'm wondering if Bayard fits the nationally significant and doesn't have to meet the locally significant.
I would argue on a local significance, and I just want to ask, raise of hands, how many have heard of them before we saw the research of this? Does that make it prominent? So what does prominence mean? So that's great. I'm glad. I actually had as well heard of him, excuse me, but on a significant level is what I'm looking at. On a prominent level, that I believe prominence has to be a large number, majority of people recognizing it. That's why Martin Luther King, I believe, would work in this situation, but not this national historic figure. And so that's all.
Yeah, I can see that based on the prominence. I just wasn't sure if he should be taken off the list based on not having local significance per this policy, but
Well, we can vote though. I mean,
I'm
that's the
not
whole
disagreeing
point.
with you.
Yeah, no, that's the whole point of voting on it though. Like that's why. So
So I think to add to that, when the policy reads, the proposed name has to fit in one of those four categories. But we also went through a rubric exercise to determine if the proposals met the questions to reach that level of the criteria. So should they be qualified? Should they not be qualified? did they even answer the questions? In this case, the question wasn't even addressed. Why should this person be considered over other potential submissions? And what is the significance to Madison? So that's why I factored in my motion.
And I think that that's going to be an issue with a lot of these proposals where they did not answer the questions as to what we're supposed to consider. And so that, as Cynthia said, if they didn't answer the question, then they shouldn't technically be in there.
Yeah, Mark and I discussed this. This was actually something we talked about. Mark, can you explain where we landed on this?
Sure. One of the things we talked about was, whether the nomination in this case sort of seemed to say that this person is not prominent, but should be, and that naming a school after him would help increase this person's prominence. But that doesn't meet the criteria that the board has laid out for us.
I also think the other part of this is like Ron was saying, it'll also just come down to vote and dialogue. I think that, we can use our common sense in some of these proposals. I don't think that they have to be directly answered every question, but if they've made it thus far, this is the part where we start to deliberate and not be so technical about things, because we've done all that in these average rankings and condensing our lists and things like that. For example, had Martin Luther King been on here and they didn't answer their question, right, we shouldn't strike them because they didn't answer the question. It's just at a point now where I think it should be more discussion based versus analytical. So I just want to keep that in mind for the committee as we continue to go through this list. But in regards to Bayard Rustin, we've had some dialogue. Or is there anything else people want to chime in? Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, I would say prominence, to whom? I mean, if we have an N of 12 here, sure, I think the prominence may not be very high, but what if, who's deciding what the N value is to determine the prominence, I guess.
And I think that's I kind of along the lines, I'm thinking that's something that we have to discuss as a board before we begin to, my personal opinion, that's something we have to discuss as a committee before we begin to eliminate people, because he might be very prominent in the LGBTQ community, and these other people who aren't, without me making an assumption, these other people who may not have a voice right now in this discussion, or so I would just, I think that, my 2 cents would be to continue to read the proposals, us come up with the criteria, come up with a definition, or however we're gonna establish prominence, and then we begin to, begin to eliminate people off our list and condense it even more.
Prominent was defined in one of the original documents sent to us.
But that has its own meaning for each person. So it's still kind of subjective, even though it has a definition, because it prominent to you and what he means to you based on the way you live it differentiates from someone else.
Yeah, I completely agree, Julian, but there's a difference between people knowing Harvey Milk and knowing this guy's name. So this is where we're going to come into, I think, an issue. And so I'm now leaning towards what you're saying. Like, if they made it this far, yes, it's going to be easy for us to be like, no, these are not even considerations, and then leave certain ones on the list. Mm-hmm. If it's going to speed up the process to get there, then fantastic. But if not, I mean, there's going to be a lot of discussion about what's prominent, who's prominent, and who's not.
And then if it just then if it just becomes kind of where it's just no progress being met, like you said, we just vote on it and we kind of let the majority rule and continue our process.
Okay, so I'm leaning more towards that. So
go ahead, Mark. And then
I think in terms of process, if part of your concern is that that it's really important to whittle our list of 15 down to 4 or 5 at this stage, I would argue that that's not a big concern. And so I would say don't let that influence your decision about whether you think that the person meets the criteria or not. Because when we get to this ranked choice voting thing, it'll give us the ability to rank all of them, and whether we rank 15 or 5 isn't going to be a big difference in terms of time. And so, if we go through this list and we don't eliminate any, that's not going to bog us down significantly.
Yeah, why don't we, I want to table my motion. Let's just keep moving through the list.
Eliana, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I have kind of, I guess, a clarifying question as we keep moving through these. So in the actual rubric that we all filled out, there was a section that talked about the person or place's relation to Madison. And so my question is, as we keep debating, like, I feel like we need to decide kind of now as we start if that is what we're going by, or if we're going by the nationally prominent thing, because I think it doesn't make sense to stop at every other proposal and say, well, is this person local or is this person national, and then give them two different sets of kind of guidelines to meet. I feel like it might be beneficial to us to right now make a decision about, is the Madison and MMSD relation important enough that we're going to like get rid of options based on that, or are we going to instead lean on prominence, just so that we kind of all are in the same frame of mind as we keep going through all these people?
I would say both, because the 4 groups are prominent national or local person, local significant geographic location, site, and concept. So that's the names. But then the questions that each submission had to answer in order to be considered were very much laid out also in the proposal process and the docs provided to us. So we're not just considering, is this a prominent person of local or national significance, and that's it. We very specifically, to your point, Elena, in the rubric, had to evaluate their answers to the questions which were part of the submission process for consideration. So I think we need to consider all of it.
Right.
Yeah, and I appreciate that reminder. This discussion has helped me remember the rubric, and that was a big part of it. And so I agree with Cynthia. It's all part of it, and it's useful discussion. I appreciate hearing everybody's opinions and knowledge base on why people are prominent or of significance to the local community, et cetera, all those factors. And I think that'll all weigh into the voting. And I also agree with what Ron and Julian said in terms of voting being, probably an efficient way to move after we've had sufficient discussion from people. So thanks for the clarifications all.
Since Cynthia has tabled her motion, I'll continue with proposal 21. Bruce Diamond High School. Proposal 24 is Maria Monreal Cameron. Did I say that right? Maria Monreal Cameron. Proposal 26 is Bruce Diamond Memorial High School. Proposal 28 is Frederick Douglass High School. Proposal 39 is Memorial High School. Proposal 40 is John Lewis Memorial High School. Proposal 41 is Mildred Harnack. Proposal 42 is Ruth Bader Ginsburg Memorial. Proposal 44 is Electa Queenie High. Proposal 47 is Electa Queenie High. Proposal 48 is Bruce Diamond Memorial High School. Proposal 54 is Bruce Diamond Memorial High School. Proposal 57 is Bruce Diamond Memorial High School. Proposal 58 is Darlene M. Hancock Memorial High School. Proposal 59 is Memorial High School. Proposal 60 is Darlene M. Hancock Memorial High School. Proposal 61 is Darlene M. Hancock Memorial High School. Proposal 62 is Madison Memorial. Proposal 71 is Val Phillips Memorial High School. Proposal 76 is Madison Memorial High School. Proposal 77 is Madison Memorial High School. Proposal 78 is Valvalia Phillips. And that concludes our list.
I have
Um,
one suggestion, and I'm a staff member and I realize that I'm not in the committee. This is just a suggestion. I'm looking at the rankings list from this meeting from which this spreadsheet was created. There are several duplicates on the list. My suggestion is to start with those duplicate names, proposals, and look at each one of those and evaluate them so that you are ending up with only one proposal for each specific name. Just a suggestion there. For example, there's 2 proposals for Electa Quinney. We could start with that one and decide which of the 2, comparing them to each other, which one you want to advance.
Yeah.
Agreed. And Barbara, I know we had spoke about that offline. And so if there's no opposition to that, I'll kind of just go through the 2.
Well, immediately I'm going to move to strike 44 because of the person and how they submitted their name and the reasoning.
Second.
That's absurd.
For discussion.
I would second that.
Okay. So all in favor of striking 44, proposal 44 from the list, say aye.
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 No opposition. The motion is passed unanimously. Barb, did you get that?
I'm sorry, I have to keep my mic on. I just wanted to make sure that after you move and you second, you are open to discussion at that point when you have it on the table. If you are all comfortable with the vote you just took, great. If somebody wanted to have a discussion on that, we can go back to that.
We opened it
Just
for
want to slow
discussion.
it down just a tad.
Okay, yeah, we opened it for discussion. No one had anything else to say.
Okay, thank you so much. I saw a unanimous vote. Is that correct, Julian?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. 44 is off the table.
And is there any?
48 and 54 are the same.
15, 16, 18, 5, 7, 9, 15, 16, 18, 48, 54, and 57 are all the same.
Do we have the rank totals for each of those to see which one of them ranked the highest, the absolute highest? That's actually what I was hoping for and had requested heading into this meeting.
Yes, that document is in board docs. I'm showing it to you right here. Is that what you're asking for, Cynthia?
57 ranked the highest at 420.
Okay, yes, thank you, Barb.
Okay, so I want to be clear about what we're asking right now. Are we talking about 48 and 54 as being absolute duplicates of each other, exactly the same?
We're talking about all the Bruce Donna Memorial proposals. So that would be 5, 7, 9, 15, 16, 18, 26, 48, 54, and 57.
And number 1.
Number 1, yeah.
And number 1.
So I move to take only the highest ranked of that group forward for consideration.
That's 57.
Which would be 57.
If you look at the,
now pull up the proposal. Oh, well, if you want to.
I'm sorry, so the motion on the table is to take the highest rank from those groups. That would be number 57. Is there a second to that motion?
second.
Is that Mark?
Yep, that was Mark.
Okay, thank you.
We
Okay,
open up for discussion.
yes, thank you. Do I unshare now? Can I
Yes.
unshare for a moment while you discuss? All right, thank you.
If you look at the spreadsheet that I put together last time that has the deduplicated ones, I put in the highest ranking one for each duplicated name. So you can, that's kind of a shortcut for what we're doing right now.
Any other discussion? Elena, is your hand up? Okay. All in favor of this motion, say aye. All opposed?
One no, Amber, one no, thank you.
No. She was from the first. She was from the first.
Yeah, sorry, I hadn't heard us move on yet, so I still had my hand up. I didn't know if Barb had seen me.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Okay,
So we have in our condensed list currently, we have proposal 44 for elect the queen, and we have proposal 57 for Bruce Diamond Memorial. Moving forward, as we go through our list, we have duplicates of Darlene M. Hancock Memorial, 58, 60, and 61. 60 and 61 have the same score. 58 was slightly behind at 3.44. Because there's only three, should we look at all three, or should we just go to the highest two and only do 60, 61? Proposal 60 and 61.
I move to keep the highest two to consider and remove 58.
Any seconds on that?
okay, if there is no second, the motion dies.
I will second that.
Sec-
David Aguayo here.
David, thank you.
David seconded that motion. So now we'll open it up for discussion. What does the committee feel towards striking 58, proposal 58, and moving forward with the two highest composite scores of proposal 60 and 61 of average scores of 4?
I just have a clarifying question. I'm still not quite understanding why we would keep any duplicates. I mean, aren't we at this point trying to eliminate all the duplicates and just keep the highest ranked one for each?
Yeah, I mean, what I was asking was because there was only 3 duplicates and the scores weren't that far off, that we just want to take the time because it wouldn't be very time consuming at all to go through all 3. And then that's when Cynthia said, no, let's just continue with the highest scores. And that's what we're discussing now. So if there's any discussion, can you stop sharing your screen, please, Barb?
Yes.
So if there's no discussion to be had, then we'll
I think-
vote on it.
Just to clarify, Mark, your question is they're both 4.0, and why keep both of them?
No, we're gonna look at both proposals after, if the motion to
Yeah.
strike 58 goes through, then we'll look at those two. Since they have the same score, and we'll decide which one as a committee, which one goes forward to the next step. So all in favor of striking proposal 58 from consideration, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye. Motion passed with a unanimous vote. Barb.
Thank you.
And now we will go to 60 and 61. If you would like to share your screen again, Barb, that would be very helpful.
Okay,
60 and 61 are both on page 4. So starting with proposal 60, named Darlene M. Hancock, a person of prominent national local figure who is deceased.
These two proposals are actually completely identical.
Yep, they are.
Yep, I see it. So,
excellent. So you can eliminate one.
I move to strike 61, proposal 61, because they are identical.
Second.
Is that
Elena.
Liliana?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll open it up for discussion now at this point. There's no discussion to be had.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Do we
Frank.
know which one was submitted first? Does that matter? Would we take the first submittal? Not that it matters a lot, but
Yeah, I don't know that. I would assume 60 came first.
That's a good
Okay.
question, Frank. The timing of them was not significant and has not been significant in the past. They just had to get here within the 30 days that the window was open.
very good. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? I can't. All in favor of striking 60 and moving forward with 61, say aye.
I'm sorry, I think it was just the opposite. We're striking 61, keeping 60. Is that correct? Doesn't
60.
matter. I'm sorry. I'm just,
Can you 61, 60? Kia, can you stop sharing your screen? I can't see everyone.
yes, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Thank you, Julian. There we go.
All in favor of moving forward with proposal 60 and striking 61, say aye.
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 All those opposed? This motion is met with no opposition. We move forward and is granted with unanimous
Thank
vote.
you.
And so now we are at as it stands, proposal 60 for Darlene M. Hancock Memorial. We are at proposal 57, Bruce Diamond Memorial, and proposal 47 for Elect the Queenie. Moving on our list. Are there any more?
Sorry, can I clarify? I thought we had passed 44, not 47. Do I have that wrong?
44 was the one that was eliminated.
44 is off the table.
Thank you. Okay.
Yep.
No,
Yeah.
47 would be off the table.
No,
Oh,
47.
yes.
47
44 was
already
off the table. Yep, that was my proposal because
Mhm.
of the name of the submitter and the comments. Yes.
Correct. And so now it looks like we can do proposal 3, proposal 4, proposal 21. And we can move forward. We can, so 21 is 3.18 and proposal 4 is 3.17. And 3 for Bruce Diamond is 3.8. How does the committee want to address these 3 duplicates?
Are we talking about 3, 4, and 21 now?
Correct.
Okay.
I would move to strike, or I would move to keep submission 21 and eliminate 4 and 3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Was that?
Ron.
Ron's yours.
Ron, sorry. Ron.
And now it's opened up for, the motion is opened up for discussion. Are there any thoughts on this?
Cynthia, can you give some rationale for your motion, please?
Yes, of course. The rationale for the motion is there 3 identical submissions, Bruce Diamond, and Bruce Diamond. And the ranking, I moved to eliminate the 2 lowest of the 3 rankings in order to move forward and expedite the process, because we still, I think, are committed to having robust discussions around all these proposals.
Thank you.
I'd like to actually amend the motion to eliminate all of the ones under discussion, because I think the difference between Bruce Dahmen Memorial and Bruce Dahmen is minutia, and not necessary for us to discuss those separately.
We'll have to take a vote on that proposed amendment. Is there a
Well, nobody
second?
seconded it, so.
to the
I was just
proposal?
going to ask, do I need to
Yeah.
second an amendment to a proposal?
I apologize, Mark. I didn't hear all of that because Finley's dinner was just delivered and the dogs were barking. Sorry, do you mind repeating that?
Sure, my motion was to strike all of these because the difference between Bruce Dahmen Memorial and Bruce Dahmen is too trivial for us to discuss, in my opinion.
And the Bruce Dahmen Memorial outranks any of those anyway.
Exactly.
Got it.
With that, I would second Mark's amendment.
Let's open up for discussion. If there's no discussion to be had, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, say aye. The motion is met with no opposition. Motion passed unanimously, Barb.
So the amendment has now been approved, so then we go back to the original motion as amended. So we just vote on that, the whole thing now with the amendment. So that is on the floor, so now you're ready to ask for another vote.
All those in favor to the original motion say aye.
As
Aye.
amended, thank you.
As amended. Those opposed, say aye.
Thank you. Are you seeing a unanimous, Julian?
Yes, it's
I did, okay, thank you.
no opposition. So now we are, as it stands, still at proposal 47, moving forward. Proposal 57, Bruce Dahmen Memorial, and proposal 60, Darlene M. Hancock. Which takes us to, just as I look through the duplicates, we would have 59, proposal 59 and proposal 39. What would the committee like to do with these duplicates?
If it's okay, I just want to take a couple minutes to make sure that we have touched every one of these, and I want to see what's left. Can I just have a couple of minutes to do that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is what the parliamentarians call standing informal. We'll just sit here. Not in recess, we're just not doing anything.
Julian, what was the other number for Memorial? 39, and what was the other one?
Excuse me, I was on mute. It was 39 and proposal 59.
Okay.
And the submission was just Memorial.
Yeah, in the docs, it says Memorial High School, but okay.
On the list, it just, which docs are you looking at?
Oh, spreadsheet.
Okay.
It says
Yeah.
Memorial High School in both of those.
Oh, I was just looking at the rankings.
I know. That's why I was trying to figure out if those were even more duplicates.
Again, I would
No.
argue that whether the nomination says high school or not is
Presumably, we're going to say
trivial
high school.
difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's fair.
There were no nominations to call it middle school.
Mark reminds me often of my overly type A personality in following policy and procedure. Sometimes I go a little too far.
Keep her moving, Cynthia.
I know. Good balance.
So we have still 71.
Since I don't have Mark's doc in front of me because I'm struggling to locate it, should we pass all these motions and eliminate all the duplicates? How many names will we be down to?
We would be down to, we would have one Bruce Diamond Memorial, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Maria Monreal Cameron, Frederick Douglass. We would have a John Lewis, a Mildred Harnick, a Darlene M. Hancock.
You skipped Electa Quinney.
We would have 10.
We'd have 10. Okay. I was just wondering since I'm not looking at the doc. Thank you.
I counted 12 for some reason.
Maybe
So
my
did
math.
I.
my math-
Memorial,
Okay, yeah, I saw more. I counted Memorial.
Memorial, and then Madison Memorial. So there are
Right.
actually 12.
Which are
Yep.
just,
Yeah, 12. Yeah, I had them. I made those the same in my mind. So yeah, 12. We'll be at 12.
Okay, catching up with you, I think the following are the ones that we still have under consideration. Number 12 is Ruth Bader Ginsburg Memorial. Number 20, Bayard Rustin. 24, Maria Monreal Cameron. 28, Frederick Douglass. 39, Just Memorial. 40, John Lewis. 41, Mildred Harnack. 42, Ruth Bader Ginsburg Memorial. 47, Electa Quinney. 57, Bruce Diamond Memorial. 59, Just Memorial. 60, Darlene M. Hancock Memorial. 62, Madison Memorial. 71, Bill Phillips Memorial. 76, Madison Memorial. 77, Madison Memorial, and 78, Valvalia Phillips. There is one thing I need to mention also that we just learned today from our researcher.
Yeah, it's
I
Val.
didn't just learn it today, but it's been out there that Val Phillips actually officially changed her name to Val Phillips. So that does not take out any of the proposals. It just says that if that name makes it to the end, that we would officially have to use the name Val, not Valvalia.
So
Is
that's
that,
applicable to proposal 78.
yes, thank you. So still a few duplicates left, but
So Barb, you let us know when you're ready to move forward again.
I'm ready to move forward. Thank you.
No problem. So that takes us to proposal 12 and proposal 42. How would the committee like to move on these duplicate proposals?
I'll move to eliminate proposal 12 because it is a lower ranking and identical to proposal 42.
I second Eliana.
Motion open up for discussion. If there is no discussion, all in favor of this motion say aye. Those opposed say aye. This motion is met with no opposition. This motion is passed unanimously to move forward with proposal 42. Moving along to 24, 28, not a duplicate. Proposal 39 and proposal 59. Both proposed names are Memorial. How would the committee like to move forward on these duplicates?
Again, I don't have Mark's sheet in front of me, but I would move that we only retain the higher of the two proposals, the higher rate.
Frank, second.
Motion up for discussion. All those in favor of this motion say aye. Those opposed say aye. This motion is met with no opposition.
So 39 is off the table,
Correct. We're moving forward with 49
59 remain.
59. Unanimously.
This ranking document is in board docs too, if you happen to have your computer. So I'm not sharing it the whole time, but I can. I can go back and forth as much as you want. So this is the ranking.
Well, I think it's probably a reasonable expectation for people to open the documents, read them.
It's all right. I kinda, we do it for the public too, YouTube people. So, but we do want to see you when you're actually deliberating on something. I would rather not be looking at a document.
Correct. At this point, I think it's fine as we begin to do the deliberating, which we almost have wrapped up. We would like to see
Okay.
each other. So we're moving forward with 59, going down the list. Looks like we have 76 and 77 left. The proposals of the submission of Madison Memorial being the name. How would the committee like to move forward with these duplicates?
Move to strike 76 and retain 77.
This is Cynthia, I second.
Motion is now up for discussion. Can you please unshare your screen, Barb?
Yep.
If this motion is met with no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. This motion is met with no opposition. Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Strike 76 from our list. So now, in the effort to condense further, I would like to ask the committee how they feel about proposal 71 and proposal 78. They are different, but is
The same person.
it's the same now that, yeah, with them being the same person and the memorial being the only addition, for the sake of just trying to condense the list further.
This is Mark. I'm moved to retain 78, but change the name to Val Phillips.
I would second that motion.
Is that Amber?
Correct.
Yes, thank you, Barb.
Thank you.
This motion is up for discussion.
So
No.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify, in this motion, it would then be 78 would be the choice with the name just Vel Phillips, not Vel Phillips Memorial.
I wasn't even addressing that. Again, I don't really consider whether we call it memorial or not part of the discussion yet.
Yeah, I thought that we kind of were gonna condense it and then add or talk about the memorial piece once we got down to the names. Amber?
Okay.
So I guess my question is, when I made that proposal last week, one of the issues raised with that was that if it wasn't part of the proposed name, people weren't comfortable adding memorial to the name, which is why that motion ended up getting voted down.
Mhm.
So I think Eliana's point is a good one. given how everybody voted at our last meeting, if we
I
want
agree.
memorial to be part of the name, then that's important. Or if I need to renew my motion to say that no matter what we pick, memorial should be part of the name, I can do that as well.
Just speaking for myself, I think that is a valid discussion to have after we narrow it down to our finalists.
I think that we have to have that discussion before, because if we decide that's not what we're going to do, then these are two separate proposals and we have to treat them as such. So thank you for reminding us about our previous discussion, Amber and Eliana. And I think that if we're going to go, I think we're at a point in this process where if we want to discuss that, we should discuss that, because we don't want to get further and then backtrack. So if a memorial is going to be part of the name, regardless to who we submit, that's one thing. But if not, then what I said is negated, and we would have to move forward with these two as separate proposals.
I don't think that we should make the determination whether something should be added or subtracted. I think we need to take the submissions as they appear. I think if we start changing things, then we're acting outside the parameters of our committee charge. That was me, Cynthia. Sorry. I do feel very strongly about that.
With that being said, does anyone else have anything to add? Any comments?
Have we not
No, I
already?
just was gonna say, I feel like that's where we landed at the last meeting. And so then if that's the case, we need to keep both of these proposals.
Agreed.
Yep.
But
we definitely-
we've already done this with Bruce Dahman. We consolidated all of the Bruce Dahmans into one, did we not? Regardless of, some of them had memorial, some of them had high school, some of them didn't. And so,
That's a good point. We have to go vote on just the Bruce Diamond's selections, because we did do that.
So Cynthia, I guess my question is,
Wait
in
a
the same
second,
way
did
that,
we or did we? No, we didn't. What we did was we took Bruce Dahman memorials, Bruce Dahman's.
We have no Bruce Diamond submissions to move forward. I believe Mark, I'm unsure who motioned it, but one of the committee members motioned to striking all the Bruce Diamond proposals that were
Except for 3.92. Okay,
right, because they were
So-
less than the Bruce Diamond Memorial proposals, the 420.
so to Mark's point, do we have a motion on the table?
There's no motion on the table. I just asked how people would feel about
yes, I made a motion to retain, and I've lost the numbers
78.
here, 78 and eliminate 71, but also change the name to just Val rather than Bellevue.
I would, after thinking about that more, I would rescind my second, only because it's going to be changed to Val no matter what. So that's irrelevant to me, and I would certainly want memorial to be part of the name if it's a choice between the two. So I don't know where we're at then with the motion.
It's okay if you rescind your second, then we just need another second. Thank you.
And if not, the motion is dismissed. There looks like there's no second, so the motion is dismissed.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to Mark's point to reinstate items 3 and 4. I'm sorry, bear with me. Bruce Dahman and Bruce Dahman. Actually, no, we didn't, because we kept 21.
21 was we didn't.
21 was
Strictly.
taken off.
So
Okay.
it would have to be all the
To
Bruce
Mark's
Diamonds.
point, then, I would like to make a motion to reconsider reinstating proposals 3, 4, and 21. I will have a follow-up motion after that.
Eliana,
We'll need a second. We'll need a second before discussion, please. So reinstating 3, 4, and 21. Is there a second? Okay,
motion dismissed. Eliana?
So my personal opinion on what I feel like we all have the same question right now. Like the question is, are we adding memorial or are we not adding memorial? I don't feel as though motions to change things that have already been done is the best way to discuss this. I feel like we should be discussing without a motion on the table to reach a joint opinion before we either go back and change things or move forward with the new elimination of names or whatever. I feel like once there's a motion on the table, the discussion becomes kind of clouded with the specific circumstances of that motion. And I think if the goal right now is to just decide if we're adding memorial or if we're not comfortable with that, I don't think a motion is necessary to have that discussion.
I think we already made the decision that we were not adding memorial or changing names.
You're taking the submissions at the proposals as is and condensing the list, and the memorial, just taking the proposals are as is. We're not adding or subtracting any memorial, and we're processing them as their own separate proposals, regardless to how similar the names may seem. Mark?
I would argue that that was an appropriate process for our last meeting, but now that we're doing this condensation, and to Eliana's point, I won't make it a motion, but perhaps someone could make this motion that regardless of wherever we land, that the last three words be Memorial High School, regardless of what and that we basically consider all of the proposals to have those three words on them, whether they were in the nomination or not.
I will once again make the same nomination that I made 2 weeks ago, whenever our meeting was, that the last three words of the name of our school should be Memorial High School, regardless of the words we choose to go in front of that. If there are any words that we choose to go in front of that, that would be my proposal again tonight.
Second,
Is that Mark? Thank you.
yes.
So I appreciate the
question.
spirit of this. And, but the problem is that's not the task we were handed. It's not up to us to call something Memorial High School because some of the submissions are Electaquini High School. Memorial is not part of that name. And if we are taking the liberty of adjusting the name, then I think we're disrespecting the process. Whether I like that or not is irrelevant. I do want to respect the process and the submissions as they stand, which then does raise concern for the motion that no one seconded before about Bruce Dahmen. I think those three need to come back and then we need to take the highest ranked one. We have to stay consistent.
I guess
And we're obligated to follow a process.
Eliana, you got something to say?
I do quickly. I'm gonna disagree, Cynthia, only because in the end we can suggest anything we can suggest what we want to the school board and they can decide anyways. So for us to make this a process, we're taking the names as we see them. We've already gone through that process. For us to just say Memorial High School at the end of it is not going to make a difference, even because the school board might say we don't want any of these names. So in the end, this just makes it easier to move on.
So I really, to your point, Ron, and I appreciate what you're saying, I would ask everyone or direct everyone to page 2 of the JMM ad hoc proposal process that was attached. It does not say that we can do whatever we want. It is very clear that we are to work with the names proposed.
Cynthia, I probably should, point of order. Yes, you can recommend to the board in the end something that you want to additionally have them consider. Yes, that can be part of the process for sure. But yes, you are principally looking at the submissions that were given to you.
Leon and then Frank.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
You
my
can go
question was
first.
answered. Yeah, thank you, Elena. No, my question was answered. Thank you.
I just feel like, so we all kind of unanimously agreed that whatever name we have will have high school at the end of it already. Like the proposed name for Electa Quinney is just Electa Quinney, but we're not going to bring it to the school board as just Electa Quinney, because what is it then? An elementary school, an auditorium? What are we doing? So my opinion is that since we've already moved to do that, it's not really any different to move to add Memorial High School at the end of it. That's just adding an extra word. And it's adding an extra word that I, as a current student, would argue is probably the most important word to anyone who is part of this school community. I personally feel as though it would be kind of a disservice to our students and to the school to not seriously consider just adding that, because Memorial High School is the name that currently unifies our school, regardless of what is currently in front of it and regardless of what we decide, if we decide to put anything in front of it. So my opinion is that since we've already agreed to add high school, it is within our rights, or whatever you want to call it, to then add also Memorial to that addition at the end.
Valid and very well said, Ileana.
I would also add that, I mean, Amber brought up a very good point about the cost and our responsibility to taxpayers. And I do think that is a consideration, something we should consider.
I felt that way initially too, but it is not, because nowhere is it listed in our committee charge to consider the fiscal impact of this. And that was something I also struggled with. Yep.
Yes, and I would agree with that, but I do think there are other subjective things that we're going to speak to that would fit in that category. So I think it's by nature, it's a subjective, there is a subjective aspect to what we're doing here.
Ron, did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh, no, I just wanted to exactly agree with that. You know, and even if we're not going to sit here and talk about how much it costs, there's a lot of us that are considering that even when we're going to be voting on names. So it would be a lie to say that that's not in consideration in our brains.
Yeah.
Lynn?
So when Barb clarified, did I hear her right that we are supposed to focus on the proposed names, but we do have the liberty to make other suggestions?
Correct.
So based on that, we are not bound to just the names, but we can make suggestions, and our suggestions will be heard as suggestions from the school board and nothing more. And so I'm in support of what I'm hearing from Amber and Ileana on this one.
Yeah.
I agree. I had one other question, maybe for Barb, but there have been other school renamings, and I'm wondering if any of this type of discussion came up that would guide us here as well. So just a thought.
As to making a recommendation from the committee other than from the names themselves?
Correct, per Cynthia's request.
I can say that has not happened,
Okay.
but that it can. You know, and they are right. The school board then you know, can do what they want with it.
Okay. Thanks, Barb.
So in this in this discussion, kind of like Ileana was saying, and then after her making a great point, is there a motion that's going to be made?
I already made and Mark already seconded the motion.
So all in favor of keeping Memorial High School at the end of any proposed names or any name suggested, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion was met with no opposition. Motion passed unanimously. We'll move forward with any names we suggest and consolidate our list to, under the expectation and pretense that Memorial High School will follow whichever name comes first. And so that pretty much brings us back to 71 and 78. Is there anything, how does the committee want to address 7178 in efforts to condense our list further?
This is Cynthia. I'll move to remove proposal 71 based on the previous proposal passing or the previous motion passing unanimously, and retain proposal 78 because of its higher ranking.
Second,
Motion up for discussion?
do we need to further specify changing it to Vel, or is that a given?
It's
The
a given.
given.
Okay.
All those in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say aye. This motion is met with no opposition. Motion passed unanimously to strike proposal 71 from our list and move forward with proposal 78. And so Barb, do you have the list of the condensed list, removing the duplicates?
Working on that right now.
Same. I have. How does the committee feel about a 10-minute recess?
Aye.
So moved.
We will
Any
Reconvene.
discussion? No, just kidding.
motion
Don't
passed.
need a motion for that. You can just go ahead and recess. We'll come back, but a time to come back would be helpful.
We'll come back at 6:35 and reconvene.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So Amber, are you ready for students?
I'm beyond ready. Like
Just want to make
nobody go,
sure.
nobody
Sorry,
goes into teaching to not get to hang out with kids. So I am really, really excited for kids to be in the building.
you're still on YouTube, okay?
Yes. And I want everybody to hear that on YouTube too. I'm excited for kids.
We have excited kids as well, Amber. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Also, I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like Barb is like the biggest asset in the world. I would like love to have a Barb in my life.
Second. Yeah,
Oh my
Barb,
God, my face is all red. Thank you.
you've been extraordinarily supportive and accommodating. Thank you.
This is, I think, the third or fourth committee that I've served on that Barb has staffed, and I can tell you this is not a new phenomenon. She's
So we are back, and just gonna run through this list that Barb and I have
Yep, we want to make sure we're all on the same page. Thank you.
identified as the remaining names, and then we can discuss on next steps. So we have proposal 47, elect a Queenie. We have proposal 57, Bruce Diamond Memorial. Proposal 60, Darlene M. Hancock. Proposal 42, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Proposal 59, Memorial. Proposal 40, John Lewis Memorial. Proposal 41, Mildred Hancock. Proposal 76, Madison Memorial. Proposal 78, Valvalia Phillips. Proposal 20, Bayard Rustin. Proposal 28, Frederick Douglass High School. And proposal 24, Maria Monreal Cameron. And so that cuts our list down to 12.
Ready to go to step 2, Julian?
Yeah, what is if that sounds right to everyone, it's time to go to step 2, which Mark, I believe Mark is gonna walk us through with the vote rank, and we'll go from there.
So I think step 2 was reviewing research, but maybe we don't need to do that.
I was thinking we might not.
Yeah.
I mean, but I would
I think
think
that was just a
honest-
safety valve in case anyone felt like we didn't have enough research on any of the names.
right. And
So we would have an opportunity to do that or request it.
if that is something that we wanted to do, I would suggest reconvene, and then after we went through all the research. But if that's not something that we need to do together, then I think we should just continue on and talk about this rank voting.
Kind of is there for committee members to look at whenever they find it necessary. So as your discussions get deeper, you may have to go a little bit deeper into a name. So that is just there for your reference.
So can I make a motion to vote? Because in the steps, it says that we need to discuss and vote if this is sufficient to move forward. So I would make a motion to say we have sufficient information available to us to proceed with the discussion.
This is Mark, I'll second that.
Okay.
Motion up for discussion. All those in favor of this motion say aye.
Okay.
Those opposed say aye. This motion is met with no opposition. Motion passed unanimously. Barb.
Thank you.
Step 3.
So step 3 was intended to give us time to review all of the public comment that had been
I don't think
received.
that's necessary.
Yeah, I think
I don't think that's necessary. I think that Barb does a great job in preparing board docs, and also, is there a supplemental if we need it? We can go back to it just if we are hung up on a name, but we don't need to go through pages of public comments during our meeting, as that's something that we should be doing on our own time, just so that we can have a some type of reference to what public opinion is on some of these names. And so
I just want to make one comment on the public comment. Is there were many comments recommending no change to the name. And as I understand it, and I think it's worth saying this for the public record, and someone should please correct me if I'm mistaken about this, but our charge is not to choose whether to change the name or not. Our charge is to choose among the nominations and present those to the school board in some sort of ranked format. And then the board would decide, whether to change the name, and if so, to what, and they can take our recommendation or not on that. But that I wanted to address the very many people who said, don't change the name. And that's something that should be addressed to the school board, not to this committee.
And so I guess one question I would have, Mark, and I appreciate that because I think that's important to point out, I would assume, and maybe I should not do so, but I would assume the board would keep that as one of their considerations. And so I don't know if that's something we need to spend time on or not. Again, this is me and my ignorance in this process. So I would presume that the board would keep that as one of their considerations, but if not, that's something we should discuss.
Well, considering the latitude Barb clarified for us, if we wanted to recommend James Madison Memorial High School as a committee as one of the possibilities, it appears that we could.
good. I think that
Go ahead. You
I
have to
think-
clarify to the board that that's what you're doing is doing it on your own and not taking one of the names forward then.
Right.
and I think Mark makes a great point where we don't have we're not the deciding entity. We just are here to process what we have. So I think that was great to say on record publicly. And it is good to acknowledge the comments, and that is good to bring to the forefront, but we need to continue to move with with our process. And at the end, if there's something that just doesn't sit right with us, then we can vote on that if that's something that we want to bring forward to the board. But now we are on our third tier of processing, and I think that we've done good thus far. And that's not something that we should really even hang our head up on right now at this moment.
I'm confident there will be a robust discussion at the Board of Education.
For sure.
Yeah. So what Cynthia and I had envisioned for this next step was to try to get a feel from the committee as a whole, what our preferences are among the finalists that we have now identified, these 12, or let's call them semifinalists. And what we decided to suggest is a ranked choice voting kind of system. Is everyone familiar with that phrase, ranked choice voting, and kind of the basics of how it works? We can certainly give some background, but I won't need to if everyone's familiar with it.
Yes, please clarify.
Sure. The idea is that we would each individually take the 12 semifinalists and rank them in terms of our preference order. So you would have a first place, a second place, third place, etc. This is the same system that was recently used in the New York Mayor's race is one of the most high profile uses of ranked choice voting. And the way the scoring, if you will, works is that then if one candidate has a pure majority of the first place votes, then that candidate is elected. Now, we don't have to limit ourselves to one, but then there would be a second place, third place, fourth place, etc. If no individual choice gets a majority, a straight majority of the first place votes, then there's a recalculation that happens by eliminating any that don't get any votes, and eliminating the essentially last place competitors. And then you see if there's a first place clear majority at that point. And then you continue that process by elimination with multiple rounds until you get to the number of finalists that you want to determine. And so our charge is to get to a maximum of 4 finalists. And so what I've done is set up a ranked choice voting system for us to use. And so each of us would then rank our choices among the 12. And you do not have to rank all 12. You could pick just 4 or 5 that you want and then eliminate others if that's your choice. And then what the committee decides to do with that result is really up to us. We could look at it and say, yep, this reflects the will of the committee and this is what we're going to recommend to the school board. Or we could say, no, we hate that result and we're going to do something different, but that was an interesting exercise. So I don't want to try to presume any particular outcome from this exercise, but merely that we would use it as we see fit.
And I really, keep going. I didn't know you. I thought you were. Go
No,
ahead.
I'm ready to pause there. Go ahead.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think that will be good to even, for us to move forward and to have our own personal perspectives heard and analyzed. My thing is, I think that that's something that we should reconvene and do. I think you should give us that tool. And I'm open to discussion. I don't think that's something that we should cram into one evening. I think we should spend time with these names and mark our first through fourth and come back. Because also I want, everyone's not here. I want to give, I want to make sure we have time to get through what we need to get through, but that will give Barb and I time to analyze the numbers and come back and say, hey, this is what the group had as a majority and this and that, and then give people the time at the next meeting to speak through their rank choice and why they did it. And we can go and hit the head, go dive right into it, kind of like we did today, versus doing it tonight and drawing it out into a later evening. That way we have time to build up our points. And so when we're discussing each one of our choices, we'll have what we need to make the clear points. And so that everyone can participate. Sean had an obligation tonight, and I would love to hear his opinion. He's been very present in our gatherings, in our meetings. He had something come up last minute, and I would also like him to be a part of this too. So I'm curious to hear what thoughts are on using Mark's process and using Mark's process individually, submitting your ranked choice votes to Barb and I so that we can analyze them and come up with some graphic that kind of shows what the group's consensus were, and then discussing that each person go through and talk about their top 4 or whatever they chose and make their points on that person, and us discussing that.
Just for clarification purposes too, and especially for the members of the public that are listening in, that while each person would be filling out their votes on the website, they are identified by the person voting. And so the results will be completely transparent. I don't want to repeat what the board did in 1965 in the way they named the school James Madison Memorial on a secret ballot.
Right. Yep.
I think you could argue that was not legal. And so the tool that I've set up permits all of the voting to be documented. So we'll be able to present that to the public as well. And literally, if we chose, we could do it right now. I feel like I've had enough time with all of these names that we've been talking about for the past several weeks that I could do that ranking, but that's just my opinion.
I could
Would-
too.
Would it be possible to get have the list, the condensed list, the 12, just so there aren't any mistakes, we're clear on what 12 we're ranking here?
I can actually share my screen and show you what this tool looks like. That might be helpful.
Barb, have you
And then
made,
you can,
were you able to condense the list into a Word document?
I'll work on that.
Oh, you can, yeah, go ahead and share your screen, Mark, and show us the tool and how it
Okay.
works.
let me know when you can all see this.
Can see it.
Okay. So I'll send you all the address to go to, but you literally just type in your name, and then it will present you with the 12 finalists in a random order.
Mhm.
So each person will see them in a different order. And then you just move them up and down to decide what your preference is. And like I said, you can completely eliminate choices if you wish. And I think that would be up to each person voting. And then you submit your vote. I'm going to do it just for demonstration purposes here, but I'll clear this out later. So once you hit vote, then not quite working here. There we go.
Mhm.
So it is kind of meaningless when only one person has voted, but
Right.
you can see that anyone will be able to see what my preferences were. And then the rest of this shows the methodology that the system uses to come up with the winning votes.
So Mark, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. This makes it look like only your top vote gets a vote. Does your ranking beyond the top one matter?
Yes. And it matters when there's more than one person voting.
Got it.
It's kind of meaningless when only one person has voted.
Right. So we should at least rank the ones we feel strongly about.
Yeah. I mean, you can certainly rank all 12.
Yes.
Or you can decide that, you know, certain ones are not worthy of any votes, and eliminate those from your voting. It's really up to you.
Okay, Mark.
But again, the way that each person completes the process will be transparent and publicly available.
Perfect. That was very valuable. It's like a very valuable tool. Can you stop sharing your screen so I can
Yeah.
see the that's super cool, Mark. I never even knew about that. That's a nice app. In terms of this, I personally wouldn't want to do it tonight, but I'm open to doing what the committee wants to do. I think, you know, whatever, you know, the way the community wants to do it, if we want to do it tonight, I would like to have Sean present for it. And I would also just like to personally spend more time with the names, not because I'm not familiar with them, but just because I just really want to make sure. And now we have more tools that give me direct reference to each name, such as the public input, and really dive into the research as we're actually about to submit our 4 that we like the most. But like I said, I'm opening this up to the committee. If you guys would like to do this tonight, I'm for that too, if that's what the majority wants to do.
Well, I think it's important to point out as well that the next step after, if we come up with a maximum of 4 finalists, we would then need to adjourn until a public hearing for people to be heard, the public to be heard, per the policy and the process. So
14
this
days
is the
before.
final step to get us to a public hearing. So that would be 2 months from now, or 1 month from now, or 2 weeks from now, or 4 weeks from now.
That seems like a pretty big step. And for a group who couldn't decide on having Memorial High School or no name, I just think we need more time. But like I said, I'm up to, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I would concur with Julian to give it some thoughtful time. I'd want to go back and forth a little bit, looking at the feedback from the nominee. So I would prefer some more time.
It sounds like in the interest of thoughtful decisions and also having as many present as possible, waiting is a good option. By the way, thank you for that tool.
Two questions on my part. Number one, Mark, I'm assuming there's a link to that, and I'm sure you have a way to secure it so that no one other than us can get to it. Just I'm trusting all of that, but let me know how I can access it. And then two, my other request would be the sooner the better for us to meet again, because as Cynthia noted, we're going to have to give some notice for a public hearing. And Barb or Mark, from your years on the board, I don't know how much notice, if it's 30 days or what we have to give.
14, yeah, it says
14
14 days. Okay. So that's just something else to consider. I agree that I think people do need a little more time, but I don't need like weeks. So.
Right.
So are we talking about, could we vote and then review the results in the next meeting and also hold the public hearing? Or are we talking about two different meetings?
We would have to do our vote, and then do the public hearing.
Right,
they're two
I'm just
separate.
wondering whether the us talking about our votes and reviewing them is a separate meeting from the public hearing, or if we could do that in one meeting.
They're separate.
I think
Eliana?
that's correct, Julian, because once your votes are clear at the end, then we have to give the public time to absorb that. And then they come back and talk to you about that.
Right. So the next steps would be the ranked choice voting, getting our list down to a maximum of 4 finalists. Then we would have to ask Barb to post public notice, and to her point, give the public time to digest, which is 14 days, to a public hearing. We would then hear the public comments on the 4 finalists we had whittled down to. And then per the process Mark and I laid out, we would engage in another round of ranked choice voting to reach one name.
Thank you for that. Let Eliana had her hand up.
I just have a clarifying question. I don't know if we've made this decision yet or not, but are we talking about doing the voting like asynchronously on our own before the next meeting? We're not talking about voting at the next meeting?
Correct.
Okay,
Before the
thank
next
you.
meeting. Correct. Ron?
Yes, then my question would be, at the next meeting, what will we be doing? I mean, are we gonna vote and those are the names, and then 14, like Barb gets them, and then 14 days later, there is a hearing for the public?
So what I was envisioning is we would do the choice that use the tool that Mark set up. We would have all the information collected. We would analyze it, and then at our meeting we would talk through. Say there was a number, just a clear number one choice. That's self-explanatory. But if there was close thirds or close seconds, close fourths, we would talk about those, deliberate, and then we would, as a group, decide who to move forward. If fifth bumps up into 4, or if, you know what I mean, if things are close, then we would talk about it. We would talk about the mayor. We would make our points, and then we would discuss. But the next meeting will for sure be getting that final 4 and getting ready for the public hearing.
I think it's worth clarifying that the process of ranking our choices, we shouldn't call that a vote.
Right.
Because when we take a vote as a committee, we obviously do that during a public meeting. So this would be just essentially completing some homework that we would then use as input at the next meeting. And if we're, like to Julian's point, we may or may not like the results of what comes back with this, and the committee can choose to do with it as it pleases.
We're ranking our choices in an attempt to whittle down the list to a maximum of 4. with
Exactly.
discussion.
And so now it seems like we are kind of collectively leaning towards another session, which is great. And so at this point, what dates, what availability, how long do people need? Do we come back next Tuesday? I mean, next Monday's Memorial Day, so that might not be the first thing that we do to start the week. But I'm open to availability, and we can talk and bounce ideas off when we should meet next.
So we have high holidays coming up for people of Jewish faith, the next 2.5, 3 weeks. So it will have to be after that. Go ahead, Eliana. She's sorry.
So no worries. I was just gonna say that, yeah, at our last meeting, I believe we basically nixed all of next week between the combination of the high holy days and memorial staff and student commitments. The next week, the 15th through the 17th is the time that I believe is off limits for the high holy days. So
Okay.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Barb, but I believe we could meet on the 14th. And that might be like our soonest option, I think.
I think that's right, Eliana. Yep. That's
How
right.
do-
If you
how-
want to get back to your Wednesday schedule, yeah, I can't do it for the 15th because that's Yom Kippur, but could do the 14th, yes.
How does 14 sound for the committee? A thumbs up if that's okay at 5 for you. David, does that work for you?
Sorry, I was currently looking at my calendar right now. 1 second.
No problem.
You want to clarify one thing, Julian, for the next meeting? Yes, you can get the names down to a maximum of 4 if you want. You could also, at that very same meeting, get it down to 1 rather than waiting for another meeting in between. So however it goes.
Just not nixing the night. It is sophomore parent night that night. I can have other counselors work it. I don't know if anyone's a sophomore parent here, but just putting that out there. I don't think it's a reason not to have it on that night.
Can I ask procedurally, when I think about the difference between, for example, 4 names coming out of the meeting hypothetically on the 14th versus 1, does that change the process of the night of the public hearing? I am not familiar with how that would work.
Wasn't really, Amber, we're trying to, give the public as much notice as we possibly can. So what they are interested in is what are the names that you're recommending to the board, the whole, the bottom line, okay? So what we want is a time frame between when you make your decision about what you're gonna send to the board and when you have your public hearing.
And I personally don't think that I don't think it would be in the best interest of us as a committee, or we'd be doing the public the greatest service to just submitting one name. But like, that's not something, if we come back, that's why we need more time. If we come back and one is just glaring and we decide to move one, we move one, but that's more what we discuss at the next one. Personally, as it stands right now, I think we should submit 4, but and give people, give the public a chance to speak on it. But like I said, we can decide all of that and the actual number of submissions that goes forward.
To
in the 14th.
clarify, Julian, item 6 on our role of renaming the committee proposal is that the CNC shall vote on a name and submit it along with all the other names to the board. And that is part of the board documents library.
That's how I read that directive too, that we should come up with essentially
One.
a single recommendation along with up to 3 other preferred alternatives. call it.
Well, whatever the verbiage is, if we select a name, I just know there should be other options, and that's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So in terms of the 14th, it seems like that works for everyone. 5 o'clock. Again, there will be communications in between. Mark will work on getting you guys that link so that everyone can do their due diligence and their homework.
Yeah, I'll get that to Barb so that she can distribute it through the proper channels.
Much appreciated.
I'm also gonna add the most recent ranking to board docs for this meeting in here so that when you're done, you can see where we're at right now.
Thank you.
My internet connection was unstable in the last 5 minutes. And also, Mark, if you could clarify again those steps in the process, in particular in written, when you send the information, I don't know if you could clarify it in writing, that'd be really helpful.
Sure, I can do that. Yeah,
Thank you.
it might be it's simpler to do than it is to explain. That might be helpful.
It's very true.
I think also if we could get a deadline so that you have enough time to prepare things for the 14th. What do you think? Or at least send it along. Be done by the 10th. I don't know, just throwing that out there.
No, I think that's fine. That gets us a little over 2 weeks, or a week and a half. And yeah, I think Barbara and I can, if the committee's able to get it in by Friday, September 10th, that gives Barbara and I enough time to get you guys the results and so you guys can have what you need for the 14th.
Am I correct in understanding we can see the results right away, that there's nothing that you two should have to create? Mark, did I see that?
I thought that you only saw
That's
your
correct.
results. Oh, okay. I thought you only saw yours.
Talking about tonight's stuff, Amber.
Okay.
No, it auto generates in the app so that there's no room for gaming a system, which is what Mark and I talked about being very important with emotionally charged conversations and choices.
So we'll be able to see everything as the votes come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think only after the time frame for voting is completed.
Closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll set it to September 10th at 5 o'clock.
Perfect.
And after that, then anyone would be able to see
Within the committee.
yes,
All
because
right,
only the committee will have the
right.
URL. But then Barb will compile those results and it'll be part of the agenda for the next meeting so that the public can see how we all voted. how we
Yes,
all
and it's
ranked.
ranking, it's not voting.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Choice
Right.
ranking.
Yeah. Okay,
Anything else?
Yep.
Frank?
Just wanted to say thank you to Cynthia and Mark. You guys put in a lot of time and I think it was very helpful and I think it'll create a very thoughtful process here going forward. So thank you both.
Thank you, guys. Agreed.
A lot extra time on that.
thank you, committee. You've come a long way. Wonderful work.
Yeah, Julian and Barb, thank you for all the hours you're putting in and answering all of our emails, all the back and forth between me and Mark. So thank you for your patience with us.
Very welcome. Thank
guys.
you.
We are moving
And
this train
I would
along.
also like to extend a special thank you to all of you. I know this is in the late hours, especially for those of you who are preparing to open up school and greet our students. But I'm just sitting here in awe, just watching the process and seeing how devoted all of you are to this process and making sure that it's an honest process. And I like the way you're leaning on each other and ensuring that we're doing what we've been charged to do. So I just want to say thank you, and please excuse me for being off screen, but thank you very much for your service. And I have to say this, Julian, thank you so much. I just wish I was as smooth as you leading this work. But no, I just want to say thank you so much for your leadership in this process as well.
Thanks, Dr. Pryor. I appreciate that. And we appreciate you guys as well, you and Barb. And I appreciate all the committee members. Everyone has been very active, vocal. And like Dr. Pryor said, we aren't just saying yes and agreeing to what everyone has to say. And that's good. We're doing what we need to do for our community. And I look forward to continuing this process and submitting what we need to submit. And with that said, if no one has anything else to say, I would like to motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Was there a second?
Mark. I believe Mark.
Thank you. Got it.
Meeting adjourned. You guys have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy back to school.